Just for a minute, let's go back in time to 1966, when a gallon of gas cost 35 cents.
Check your oil.
Surveyor 1 became the first U.S. spacecraft to land on the moon. The Beatles released their Revolver album featuring the song Yellow Submarine. The Celtics won another NBA championship. And workers on Boston's waterfront were building a structure that was unique in all the world. It was the New England Aquarium, the flagship of Boston's waterfront restoration. Today, the aquarium's mission is to show you a kaleidoscope of fascinating creatures and to tell you about the growing need to protect life in the world of water. In this show, you'll meet an astonishing variety of living things, what scientists call biodiversity. And we'll find out why biodiversity is so important to you and me and the world around us. Throughout the program, we'll meet people who work here at the New England Aquarium. People who rescue sick and injured animals that wash ashore. People who are working to protect the Amazon rainforest. And people who care for the sharks, turtles, and tropical fishes in our 4-story Caribbean Reef exhibit. Now, let's get started with an adventure to the aquarium's backwaters. Here, behind the scenes, there's a kind of farm where instead of raising chickens or cows, they raise, of all things, sea jellies. Graceful, otherworldly, hypnotic. Sea jellies are living works of art. Maybe that's why Carolyn Nichols is so passionate about working with them. You see, she's trained as an artist. But here in the New England Aquarium Sea Jelly Husbandry Lab, she does both art and science. Along with her co-worker, Kelly Rocco, Carolyn's main task is raising jellies for exhibits at the New England Aquarium and other aquariums around the world. Carolyn enjoys getting immersed in her work.
I get to get soaking wet all day long and splash around in water and just watch jellyfish. It's one of the most soothing things. I know my blood pressure's gone down since I've come here. They're magnificent animals.
As much fun as this work may be, this team takes their work seriously. They handle their fragile animals with great care.
They need constant water changes. Every single day we have to change their water. We monitor their temperature. They need certain types of flow, because if there wasn't any flow in any of these tanks, they would all just settle out on the bottom and turn into jello, basically.
Speaking of jello, what's for dinner? Well, for one thing, shrimp. Actually, clouds of baby brine shrimp. The jellies love them. These shrimp are real, well, shrimps. Each is not much bigger than a grain of sand. Here's a closer view of a newly hatched brine shrimp, which is a type of crustacean. The shrimp hatch out of nearly microscopic eggs in this special tank containing salty water and just the right recipe of nutrients. In addition to knowing what to feed sea jellies, Kelly and Carolyn need to understand the life cycles of these animals. The moon jelly, for example, begins its life as a soft polyp, which is about the size of a pencil point. Polyps often grow on rocks, seaweeds, or other submerged surfaces. Eventually, the polyp develops into a structure that looks like a stack of tiny dinner plates. Then, as the structure grows and matures, baby jellies separate from the stack, one by one. Each becomes a free-swimming jelly. Months later, free-floating jellies that survive to adulthood produce microscopic larvae. The larvae then settle down and grow into tiny polyps, like these in the jelly farm. In this way, the moon jelly's life cycle, and that of many other jelly species, continue generation after generation. Here, Carolyn removes eggs from an adult sea nettle jelly. If all goes well, these will grow into polyps and eventually a new generation of sea nettles. Carolyn needs to be careful. Sea nettles can sting.
I do get stung, probably about once a week. It's not a bad sting, and you just have to be very, very careful. Most times it feels like sometimes the bad ones are like a bee sting, and those you're just super careful with. I wear gloves to protect myself.
Because many kinds of jellies naturally sting and eat other animals of the aquatic kind, jellies are an important part of the ocean food web.
It's sort of like a gardener in a sense. They just sort of weed the ocean so it doesn't get full of microscopic algae and zooplankton. Also, they're a great food source for sea turtles, eat them. A lot of different fish will eat them. So they're, again, a high protein diet for a lot of other animals.
So jellies are vital to the ocean's web of life. They're beautiful, and they keep people like Carolyn busy and fascinated. Is there any downside to her job? Well, she says her biggest challenge is leaving the job she loves at the end of the day and getting home at a reasonable hour.
There's a lot to do here, and a lot of it you just get so involved with it. It's mostly just getting home on time.
While Carolyn and Kelly tend to their jellies on the Boston waterfront, one of their New England Aquarium co-workers, Scott Dowd, looks after the well-being of both fishes and people thousands of miles away in the Amazon jungle. And that's where we're headed next. So pack your bags, because our next stop is Brazil. The Amazon River system. It is home to a fantastic variety of plants and animals. And for biologists like Scott Dowd of the New England Aquarium, it's heaven on earth. And more fun than a barrel of fishes. Scott first visited this tropical river and its surrounding jungle in 1991.
When I first got to the Amazon, one of the first fish I saw in the river was an angelfish. And that's a moment I'll never forget. I grew up hanging out at pet stores and keeping fish at home, and the angelfish was always this exotic alien from another world. And when I realized that I was now in that world was the moment I saw an angelfish swimming.
But it wasn't just the wildlife that captured Scott's imagination. He quickly grew to admire the people of this region and their lifelong connection with the river. This entire ecosystem impressed Scott so much that he decided to help preserve it. So he teamed up with University of Amazonas biologist Labiche Chow and his team, who were working on Project Piaba.
Project Piaba is an interdisciplinary project with the goals of preserving the habitats and the ecosystem of the Rio Negro.
Piaba's primary goal is to protect this region's plants and animals by encouraging local fishermen to collect ornamental fishes in ecologically friendly ways. The geographical focus of Project Piaba is the town of Barcelos, which is located on the Rio Negro, about 280 miles upstream from the major Amazon River port of Manaus. Barcelos identifies itself as the ornamental fish capital of the world. An important reason for the abundance and diversity of tropical freshwater fishes in the Rio Negro has to do with the rainy season flooding that causes the waters of this river to rise as much as 10 meters, more than 30 feet.
It floods vast areas of forest. These trees and plants and the animals of this area have adapted to this annual cycle. There can be some plants that are inundated for over 6 months a year.
In turn, the flooded river forest forms an ideal habitat for tropical fishes that thrive in these backwaters. Fishes like the valuable cardinal tetra, which you may have seen in pet stores.
Cardinal tetras occur exclusively in flooded forest. They occur exclusively under trees. Most of them near the margin of the river or in very shallow flooded forest.
Among the sunken branches and roots, cardinal tetra find protection from larger predatory fishes. And here, Brazilian fishermen stalk and collect the tetra. Using a net called a hapeshe and other low-impact collecting equipment, the fishermen gather the cardinal tetra and gently release any fishes scooped up by accident. Soon, the catch is shipped via Barcelos to a distribution center in Manaus. From Manaus, the fish are sent to pet shops all over the world. According to Scott, this style of fishing enables the fishermen to earn a living. At the same time, this nature-friendly collecting method helps to guarantee the protection of the river forest for all time.
The ornamental fish industry requires that the habitats be kept intact and the ecosystems function. And this is a way that people can make a living off the environment in a way that requires the environment to be maintained. Large commercial fishing vessels can't get into the flooded forest. It's just too dense. And if it were modified to accommodate large commercial fishing vessels, the fish wouldn't be there.
Scott says that if it were not for so-called green industries, such as this low-impact fish collecting, the people of this region might turn to logging or gold mining, activities which can damage the Amazon ecosystem. But can fishermen take too many cardinal tetra?
In my opinion, it's very unlikely that the cardinal tetra will be overexploited.
That's because this style of fish collecting leaves plenty of cardinal tetra in the river, and tetras can quickly replenish their numbers. But just to be sure, Scott and his co-workers are studying the river's entire web of life, both in the field and in the laboratory.
For this water, we're testing. This is typical.
You can't just study the target species. You have to understand the whole balance of the ecosystem. You have to understand how that species interacts with other species.
And these biologists also understand the urgent need to include local Brazilian people in every aspect of Project Piaba.
The Brazilian people are wonderful people. They're very warm, very open people. And it's daunting having goals with this level of ambition, and the local people have been very supportive of our endeavors. Luckily, we're working in an area that of very forward-thinking people.
But this endeavor is not all work. Every year, the people of Barcelos stage an ornamental fish festival. Each performer in the festival dresses up like one of two varieties of tropical fish.
Half the town adopts the cardinal tetra side, and the other half of the town becomes the discus. Each side has about 2 hours to present an elaborately choreographed dance involving small children and fishermen, and they have huge floats. It's kind of like a Macy's Day Parade for fish.
A panel of local judges decides which group, the tetra or the discus, puts on the best performance. But no matter who wins, this festival shows how the lives of these people are interwoven with the natural diversity of life around them. From the Amazon rainforest, let's move on to another ecosystem, the coral reef. Because both coral reefs and rainforests harbor astonishing varieties of living things, often people call coral ecosystems the rainforests of the sea. And now, for a closer look at a coral jungle, we're going to take you on a tour of a Caribbean reef we've created inside the New England Aquarium's 4-story giant ocean tank. Your tour guide will be aquarium diver and biologist Dan Laughlin. So, are you ready? 3, 2, 1, splashdown. Here's a shark's eye view of a diving biologist taking the plunge into 187,000 gallons of purified Boston Harbor seawater. As you might expect, before the water enters the tank, we warm it up to a tropical temperature, about 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Aquarium divers are part of this crowd on a daily basis. They are caretakers both for the animals and the exhibit itself. Each diver logs about 500 hours in the tank every year.
The reef in our ocean tank it's a constructed reef. It's not made out of real living material. It's made out of fiberglass, and the fishes have adapted amazingly to the fabricated fiberglass coral structures in the tank. And our exhibit builders went to a great length to study natural coral reef structures when they replicated the reef in our ocean tank, and they didn't take a real reef out of the natural environment, because a coral reef is a very delicate ecosystem.
Five times a day, the divers feed the animals, who sense the bag of food that signals mealtime. The animals are fed, what else? Seafood, and it's all restaurant quality. In addition to these shrimp, they're also given smelts, mussels, squid, mackerel, herring, and their favorite health food consisting of a low-fat, vitamin-rich blend of vegetables. The food is brought in frozen by the ton, thawed as needed, and served. The divers pay special attention to the smaller, less competitive fishes. This ensures the well-being of all the tank residents, many of whom swim in the shadow of bigger, more aggressive animals. Daily, the divers tour the tank. They know the animals individually and give them regular examinations for any battle scars or medical problems that need attention. But it isn't all work. It can also be play. Moray eels are potentially dangerous when they need to defend themselves, but here in the tank they've grown accustomed to the divers, so they pose virtually no threat to them. The morays and other predators are well fed, so they rarely dine on their neighbors. Nonetheless, recesses in the reef provide smaller fishes with an extra measure of protection. This nocturnal squirrelfish, for example, hides from predators all day long. It only comes out at night. The queen triggerfish uses its top fin to wedge itself into a crevice. Predators can't pull it out. Here, the rock hind uses its own natural camouflage to hide. But the porcupine fish swims right out in the open. To protect itself, it inflates with water to become a spiny balloon. What it loses in speed and grace, it gains by becoming completely unappetizing. But most of the time, the fishes get along just fine. French angelfish wait in line to get cleaned by the smaller, bright yellow porkfish.
The best part of the job is being able to show up at work every morning and put on scuba gear and jump right into a simulated giant reef. It's going to work and getting away from it all, and it's great.
But this exhibit stands as more than 4 stories of fun. It's also a reminder for all of us. There's a wealth of life in the sea, life we must protect for future generations to learn from and enjoy. In addition to the New England Aquarium divers who watch over a diversity of animals, our marine animal rescue team cares for seals, both pups and adults, that run into trouble on New England's shores. As it turns out, these stranded seals are helping their rescuers learn important lessons about marine biology. Some are starving and dehydrated, some are abandoned, some are injured, and some appear to be just plain lost. They are the seals that come ashore along the New England coast and are recovered by the aquarium's marine mammal rescue team. And every spring, like clockwork, orphaned harbor seal pups come ashore, mostly on the coast of Maine. Once they are rescued, they are brought to the aquarium medical center's critical care ward. Veterinary technician Connie Marigo says the humane care she and her staff provide here is a matter of life and death.
If we didn't rescue the baby seals, they would die, for sure. They are abandoned by their mother, which means at this age they would starve. When they come in, they're emaciated and dehydrated with other problems on top of that, sometimes pneumonia or whatnot. So each animal needs to get a full entrance physical exam, including blood work. And we analyze the blood and then we figure out what plan to put them on.
Typically, that plan includes feedings, as many as 4 or more a day. The menu? Often a special seal pup formula made with vegetable oils, cod liver oil, powdered cottage cheese, lecithin, and a pinch of salt. When the seal formula is ready, a team of full-time staff and volunteers gently immobilize a few seals at a time and feed the animals using a soft tube that sends the liquid directly into their stomachs. According to Connie, this is hard work. No brag, just fact.
We get tired, but we don't get tired of the seals coming in. Year after year, they strand as pups. Other animals come in throughout the year, but usually May and June, the pups come, and you never really get tired of it. There's always more to learn.
The goal of all of this is to get these little wieners up to a hefty 50 pounds or so they can be released back into the sea. That process usually takes about 3 months. What's the best part of the job?
I think the releases, because you know the animals are going back into the wild. You know you've done a good job and that they're ready and that they're going back to the environment that they belong in.
While Connie and her crew release seals into the wild, Greg Early's job is to track some of them by satellite.
Even though zoos and aquariums have been rescuing seals for 20 years or so, pretty much once you let them go, we don't know anything about them. And that can be little questions like we don't know where they go, to bigger questions like we don't know if they survive. What we're doing now is we're making some efforts to answer some of those questions.
Here is one of Greg's success stories. Stephanie, a 600-pound adult female hooded seal native to the Arctic, came ashore sick on a Massachusetts beach back during the winter of 1996. After her recovery, Stephanie was fitted with a harmless satellite tracking device, or tag, designed to fall off after a number of months. On September 10th, 1996, with a tag glued to the back of her neck, Stephanie headed out to sea at a speed of about 50 miles per day. She swung northward, past Newfoundland, and by Halloween of '96, she reached the Arctic Circle. During her journey, the satellite that tracked Stephanie relayed additional information to Greg Early back in his laboratory. As a result, Greg was able to learn that Stephanie dove to depths as great as 3,200 feet, or roughly 1,000 meters, more than 10 soccer fields straight down. That kind of data is providing us with new insight into the biology of hooded seals. But Greg says getting a more complete view of seal biology will require much more work.
And that requires a certain amount of work to get a number of tags out on a number of different species under a number of different conditions.
And now, by tagging these harbor seals, we're learning more about this New England species all the time by giving them a second chance. Let's revisit some of the other animals we've featured in this edition of Aqua TV. They're just a tiny fraction of the beautiful and often strange varieties of life in our watery world. Keeping that in mind, here's a word from our scientists. You see, they have a word for the astonishing variety of life on Earth, and that word is biodiversity. Now, we know that overly scientific word tends tends to confuse many people. But as you may know, if you just take the word biodiversity apart, bio means life, and diversity means variety. Therefore, biodiversity simply means the variety of life. All of it, the whole shebang, the whole kit and caboodle, the whole kettle of fish, the entire web of life.
Oh, look at that little thing. Looks like a bird.
And here at the aquarium, we focus on the web of life in the world of water. Think about it. Millions and millions of species of living things that we know about, and most likely a whole bunch more that we haven't discovered yet. But for now, let's imagine that biodiversity is like mealtime, and welcome to my kitchen. Now, what would your life be like if all you had to eat was oatmeal? You'd start the day with a nice big bowl of oatmeal. Then for lunch, let's see, how about oatmeal? Then for dinner, you guessed it, more oatmeal. Now, I like oatmeal a lot, and it's really good for you, but I wouldn't want to have it meal after meal, day after day, plus a diet like that probably wouldn't be all that healthy for you. Instead, I like a great variety or diversity of foods like bananas and oranges and apples and yogurt and eggs and milk and pasta and breads and crackers and broccoli, tomatoes, carrots, and some herbs and spices. This kind of variety is healthy, and it makes mealtime interesting. Same with the diversity of life on Earth. Apparently, this biodiversity is healthy for ecosystems. The diversity of life purifies our waters and provides us with foods and medicines. Plus, as a special added attraction, biodiversity makes our planet a more interesting place in which to live. Don't just take it from me. Listen to a few words about biodiversity from New England Aquarium President Jerry Schubel.
I think conserving biodiversity is central to our mission. And I think the only way we're going to conserve biodiversity is to make people realize that we are part of nature, that we share this world with the other living things, and that we don't live in some separate world. And an aquarium, a zoo, those are the places where you can reconnect people with nature.
Bearing in mind Jerry's words, there are some steps we can all take to help preserve the world's biodiversity. Join an organization that helps to protect our environment. Set up a freshwater aquarium in your home or classroom. This is a great way to care for your personal web of life. Look at ocean or pond water through a microscope. In this way you can discover microscopic biodiversity. Limit your use of lawn fertilizers and pesticides. These chemicals can run off into coastal waters and harm sea life. Avoid dumping paint or other chemicals down drains. Instead, find out if your city or town has a hazardous waste collection day. Organize an annual biodiversity day in your hometown or city where citizens catalog every species they can find. Finally, invent your own list of ways to preserve biodiversity. Well, that just about wraps things up for now. Thanks for tuning in, and please be on the lookout for future editions of Aqua TV. Turns out we've got a lot more stories we'd like to share with you, stories that celebrate the diversity of aquatic life. Meanwhile, for more information, please check out our website at www.neaq.org. This site includes information about New England Aquarium memberships and our members' magazine, Aqualog.